And welcome to our daily space weather video 2 of 3. In this segment, we'll be talking about things like fields, features, coronal holes, sunspots, and more. First, looking at the Earth geospace out to about 12 Earth diameters here. We're seeing a coronal hole wind stream continuing here. So we're seeing a continued high-speed stream of solar protons striking the Earth's magnetosphere. And it's causing for a heightened magnetohydrodynamic pressure. The scale you're looking at here is nanopascals. And that is the past 4 hours of Earth's magnetic moment from space. Next, we'll look at Earth's magnetic moment from the ground. Changes in Earth's B field, known as geospace delta B. This is the last 4 hours of ground magnetic perturbations. A different model also created by the space weather modeling framework. A lot of variables go into it. Again, that's 4 hours of ground magnetic perturbations. And drop us a line on Twitter. If you've seen any aurora, we'll gladly feature your videos and photos on the daily space weather. Next, looking at the GOES magnetometer over the past 3 days here, we're seeing some spiky readings. That's all a result of solar plasma. And let's take a look at the heliospheric current sheet. There is a south pole current sheet, likely speeding this way. Not showing up yet on the imagery, but we are expecting a south pole current sheet. So we're expecting an acceleration here of this red portion toward planet Earth. It all has to do with the activity on the closest star, known as El Sol, Helios, the Sun. Earth is currently kind of right in the middle of a north pole current sheet. We're expecting that to change in a couple of days. Here's a line of sight view. I say there's a south pole current sheet coming. What do you think? Let us know in the comments. Keep in mind, this data here is 1 hour and 26 minutes old from when we made the video. It's derived from 51 ground-based magnetometers and magnetometers on stereo A here at Lagrange point 5 and stereo B here at Lagrange point 4. Next, we'll look at the line of sight coronal hole plot. Lots of north pole-oriented coronal holes here rotating into the earthly zone. And we can expect some geo effects, some geomagnetic effects from the plasma emanating from those coronal holes. Yeah, they're emitting high-speed streams of solar wind, folks. So here's a view, 211 angstroms we brought up today. It's showing a little more definition for all those coronal holes than 193 angstroms. 193 and 211 are the best wavelengths to view coronal holes from the SDO's data. Very well-defined system of coronal holes there. And let's move on to sunspots. So we're going to have 5 named groups today when we get a name for sunspot 2955. 2 small groups in the southern hemisphere, 1 small group in the northern hemisphere. And we've now seen more activity showing up in the northern hemisphere than the south. So the baton has been passed from the south hemisphere to the north hemisphere, as the beginning of solar cycle 25's ramp up included mostly southern hemisphere activity. Let's take a look at some close-ups here. There's sunspot 2954 and 2955 rising there at the end of the video. This is 335 and 94 angstroms. Here's 1700 angstroms alone. You can see that second umbra there. Those are both North Pole umbrae there. So that's not a beta class sunspot. That is just 2 different sunspots. Here we've added 335 angstroms to the 1700. And here's the full disk view. Those 2 larger than Earth sized umbrae rotating into the earthly zone. No major flares here over the past 24 hours. Largest flare of the past 3 days was this C5.1. Since then, quite calm. We do see a continued signal here on the proton flux. That was associated with an M-class flare and a massive coronal mass ejection on the opposite side of the Sun days ago. And this signal continues. Next, a brief look at the real-time solar wind. We've seen another increase here in the solar wind speed. Current solar wind speed around 550 kilometers per second. Solar wind density still heightened a little bit here at around 11 protons per cubic centimeter. Again, as the coronal hole high-speed stream continues. Not a lot of geomagnetic effects from that, so only a brief storm period there caused by a strong field and a negative BZ signal. Since then, calm conditions, KP4 at the current state of making this video. Next, we'll show you a solar system forecast, as we like people to be oriented to their astrography. So let's see where things are now. Well, there's where they are now. We'll advance it 1 week. There's where things will be. In a week, we'll be approaching a new moon with our crescent waning as Mercury speeds around to blow Venus's doors off. If you're up before dawn, you might see Mars and Venus and Mercury and Saturn rising ahead of the sun as the moon moves into a setting mode. And we've drawn in the blue line here. That's the galactic plane. The yellow line is the ecliptic. That's in-the-sky.org. And last but not least, let's take a look at some coronagraphs. The coronagraph from Stereo A, located here at Lagrange 5, and the Soho Lasco C3, located here at Lagrange 1, along with Discover and ACE, is on the right. This would put Earth behind you from this perspective. And from this perspective, Earth would be off to your right. That's Stereo A at Lagrange 5 on your left frame there. Small coronal mass ejection here on the far side of the sun, nothing on the earthly side of the sun. Thanks for tuning in, earthly viewers. If you viewed the video from a different plane of existence, timeline, universe, multiverse, spacecraft, planet, galaxy, let us know in the comments where you're located. Thanks for tuning in regardless. Congratulations on realizing the channel exists. And I've been your host, Dan, a.k.a. Smash-O-Mash, signing off from the Smash News Network, least busted name in news.